Or we want sustainable, lasting results so that you never have to do a diet again. Welcome to today's episode where I am going to show you how you can lose weight and even get lean without dieting. Now, I'm not trying to trick you. I'm not trying to sell you some magic pill or anything. I'm going to give you the science behind calories, metabolism, macros, nutrition, and fat loss. And I'm going to explain to you why dieting is probably the worst way for you to try and lose weight. So, number one, here's the reason why dieting is the worst way to lose weight and why I don't want you to do it is because the second you start a diet or you start a challenge, this is why you'll probably never see me do some sort of challenge, is because mentally, from a mindset game, you are automatically counting down the days until it's over. And why are you counting down the days until it's over? So you can go right back to your old habits. Oh, I'm doing a 30-day no alcohol challenge. Oh my God, I have 3 more weeks. In week number 4, I can go binge drink. Oh my God, I'm doing a 30-day diet challenge where I'm not eating carbs. And then after day 30, you're going to go binge eat pizza and sushi. Like, dieting is just stupid. Like, I'm sorry, but it is. It's stupid because it doesn't actually teach you anything but deprivation and another trend to get on top of. So that's number one. Because if you think about it, what is your plan when that diet or challenge comes to an end and you haven't built up any habits, mindset shifts, or lifestyle changes during that diet? What's going to happen? Let's just be honest. You're going to go right back to doing what you were doing, probably going to gain weight that you lost, supposedly, and then you're probably going to gain even more. That's the truth. That's what happens to everybody. That's exactly why there's always a new diet coming out. Intermittent fasting, fasted cardio, keto, the cottage cheese diet, the don't eat for 24 hours and do a juice cleanse thing. Like, there's always something because marketing, ads, society, people that are just trying to get you to buy something, they know if they did 30 days here, then in another 6 months, they're going to need another diet and trying to jump on. And I don't want you to do that because it's stupid and it's not going to last. And you're going to be frustrated and you're going to screw up your health and screw up your metabolism. So I don't want you to lose weight dieting. And I'm going to show you what to do instead. Number two, psychologically, if I tell you right now you can't have something, what's going to happen? That's all you want. That's all you can think about. That's how we're programmed. Our brains want what we can't have. So if I tell you you can't have sugar, you can't have carbs, you can't eat this, you can't eat that, don't do alcohol, automatically you are going to be so miserable craving all of that. So don't diet. Do not do another challenge. Do not do another trending thing that you see 4 million stock photo testimonials of. Like, just do yourself a favor and don't do it. Do this instead. What I have every single client do when they start with me is they'll all attest to this. They're like, all right, what do I do? Like, tell me right now. Everybody's so eager. Like, what do I cut out? What are my calories? What are my macros? And I'm like, no, I don't want you to do any of that because it's going to overwhelm you and it's too much at once. The key to change in any area of life is awareness. That's step number one. And if anybody doesn't teach you that, then they aren't actually invested in your long-term well-being. So the key to changing any area of your life is having the awareness of what you're currently doing, because with awareness, you have the power to then change those habits. So to start, you're going to download something like MyFitnessPal or RP Strength or some other macro calorie tracking tool. And in the very beginning, I tell people, give me 2 to 3 weeks. I don't want you to change anything that you're eating. If you're eating Big Macs and pizza and chocolate bars and a gallon of chocolate milk every single day and 4 bowls of macaroni and cheese, I don't care. I want you to put that in there and don't judge it. Just see that it's kind of like a fun little game. Like, you know what? We're just going to track this and see what happens. I want you to do this 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 1 week. It doesn't really matter, because you're going to first become aware of what are you even doing? What are you consuming? Are you eating 1,000 calories or are you eating 10,000 calories? Are you getting 40 grams of protein or 400 grams of protein? That's where you start. So by doing this, I am under the radar teaching you 2 things. 1, awareness, and 2, tracking and accountability. So we're already creating 2 habits that you're not even really worried about because you're doing it like in the back of your mind of like, oh, I want to like lose weight. So I'm not making any changes. I'm not dieting. All you're doing is just tracking. But psychologically, you actually are developing new lifestyle habits by becoming aware and tracking. That's the first part. And how do you lose weight without dying? Awareness and tracking, awareness and tracking. You can apply this to anything in your life, finances, relationships, whatever. Start becoming aware of what your spending habits are, start tracking it, and you're going to see things change. Start tracking. From here, weight loss is a very simple process. Everybody makes it overcomplicated. Calories in versus calories out. If you consume less calories than you burn on a daily basis, you will lose weight. So even if you stop this video right now and you're like, okay, let me download this really quick. Let me see how much I'm eating for the next 2 weeks. And then calories in versus calories out, like how many calories am I consuming? Great. Even if that's all you did and you keep eating your Big Macs and cheeseburgers and hot dogs and pizza and ice cream, even if you did all of that, but you stayed within a certain calorie range, you would still lose weight. That's the science behind it. That's the simplest thing. This was what made the whole like IIFYM and flexible dieting like so crazy. Like, oh my God, eat what you want as long as you stick with your macros. It's not that big of a deal. Yeah, if you eat less, you're going to lose weight, and regardless of where it comes from. So that's the very beginning. If you don't want to change what you're eating, if you don't want to do something crazy, if you simply just start tracking what your caloric intake is, I don't even care about your carbs, fats, and protein, and you eat less than what you're burning. So instead of 4 Big Macs, you eat one, you will consistently lose weight. Now, normally what happens is this is how clients start with just tracking, becoming aware, noticing like, oh my God, I didn't realize I was eating so much. And it's like, right, exactly. This is why it's important is so you understand and you start to learn about like your portion sizes, what your body actually needs, what your habits are throughout the day. Are you eating more carbs in the morning or more carbs at night? Is it stress? All this stuff. So that's the very beginning. Once you have that habit down, you can start to change your actual physique. So the important thing to understand is you can lose weight and you can be what I consider you're just skinny, which isn't wrong, but there's like skinny with high body fat, which most people don't realize that. Like a woman can be 110 pounds with 35% body fat, and a woman can be 150 pounds with 15% body fat, and they look like they're the same size. One just is very toned and sculpted. It's the difference between the type of food that you're eating. So, this is what we're going to get into now. The person who is much more fit and toned, they are actually paying attention to the quality of the calories and the nutrition that they're eating, and they're paying attention to very specific macros, which I'm going to show you how to do. And I mean, obviously, like strength training, working out, and all that goes into it too. So if you start there and you start losing weight and you're like, okay, cool, Ashley, like I understand the calories in versus calories out. I've lost like 5 pounds or 10 pounds and I can eat whatever I want. You can stop there if you want. If you want to get to the point where like, all right, now I want to step it up a little bit. Now I actually want to work on, I don't want to just be skinny. I also want to be healthy inside. I want to take care of my nutrition. I want to take care of my organs and I want my blood work to come back good. So I'm not high blood sugar or high cholesterol or low cortisol or high cortisol or whatever. Like you actually want to work on that. The next baby step that you can do is start adding in and removing things. Start adding in like a serving of fruits and vegetables and start removing maybe one piece of bread from your sandwich and eat it with just like half the bread. Start subbing sugar with stevia. Start swapping ice cream for Greek yogurt. Things like this are baby tweaks you can do where still you're not really dieting or depriving of anything. You're just making health swaps. I mean, those of you who've been with me for a while, I mean, that was the business I had a couple of years ago. Like I built an entire brand because I love pancakes and waffles and muffins and baked goods and created all these recipes because I did swaps. Like instead of flour, let me do protein powder. Instead of sugar, let me do stevia. Like There's so many ways that you can get creative where you're still enjoying foods that you love in a healthier way. And I even have some clients that they're like, Ashley, I love chocolate. I'm like, cool, eat chocolate, just get the kind that there's no sugar added. I'm not saying you can't eat chocolate. And they're like, okay, well, what about like, I love candy? I'm like, cool, go get one of the organic ones that are sweetened with stevia instead of sugar. Like, there's always something. You don't have to be so extreme, and it's going to do more good for you in the long run to just learn these different habits. So, that's the other thing is like the next baby step is you can start swapping things out with things that are more of quality nutrition. Maybe it's a simple thing like now you're going to start eating organic instead of processed or things that have pesticides and chemicals on it. So we're at the point where you're just tracking what you're eating and you're becoming aware. Calories in versus calories out. Now, maybe some baby swaps, eating more organic, eating more holistic. You're going to feel it. I absolutely 1000% guarantee when you stop eating processed foods and you start eating whole foods, you are going to feel the difference. Your skin's going to look better. You're going to sleep better. You're just going to feel cleaner inside and out. Then the final step, and a lot of people do this backwards, they start with like figuring out their macros and calories first, but they haven't developed all these little baby steps. This is the part where, like, okay, now that I'm in the routine, I've got the habits, I got the awareness of all this. Now let me figure out my macronutrients. So we're going to go through this. I did a whole episode on this before, and we're going to go back through this again just to make sure you understand what your body needs. And we're going to figure this out together. We're going to cover both men and we're going to cover women. Most of the time, if you use a macronutrient app, I actually don't like those. I don't like those. I've played around with them and it's crazy. I don't like them because they don't really tell you based off of your body type. So if you're a mesomorph, an endomorph, and an ectomorph, you're going to need different things than just like, oh, I'm 5'4" and I want to weigh this much and here's how active I am. It doesn't work that way. So we're going to go through this. I'm going to give you a couple tips based on your body type, but also taking into consideration your activity level. So, figuring out your caloric intake, most people do this based off of their current weight or their goal weight. There's not really anything wrong with you doing it off of your goal weight. But what I like to figure my macros off of and my clients' macros off of is based on their lean body weight. So if your goal hypothetically as a woman, say you want to weigh 130 pounds, but you're more like 100 pounds of lean mass, I would figure out your macros somewhere between 100 and 110 pounds, not because we're trying to get you down to that weight, but because that's going to ensure you're getting enough nutrients and quality macronutrients to sustain your lean mass. And it gets your body more in a fat burning state. That way you're not in a surplus. So when you're in a surplus, it's when you're going over your calories and your body has plenty of energy, it stores it as fat. But we also don't really have you in a deficit where your body starts burning muscle. Be careful of that too. I know when I give you these numbers, you're going to be like, oh, I'm just going to drop super low and I'm going to lose weight. Don't do that. It's counterintuitive, I know, but don't do that because your body will go into a catabolic state where it starts going to any lean muscle mass that you have and burning that instead. You can go to the lower end of this and be totally fine, but you don't really want to drop too much lower than that because it's not going to be helpful and it's not going to be sustainable. Remember, we want sustainable, lasting results so that you never have to do a diet again. So you first need to know, what is your lean muscle mass? If you don't know what this is, that's okay. I mean, a general range, if you're an athlete, women, anywhere from like 15 to 18%. If you're pretty lean, if you below that, I mean, you were like 6-pack, shredded. Most women tend to teeter around like the 25 to 35%. That's average. And then the same thing for men. Like, I would go based off of like the 20 to 30% as the average as well. And guys, it's a lot easier for you to have lower body fat, like even under 10%. But if you're in the 10% or lower range, like I said, you are shredded with a 6-pack and you're not watching this video. So disregard that. So for men, You need to remember the multiplier for between the number 40 and 60. 40 on the low end, 60 on the high end. For women, you're going to need the number 40 to 45. So I'm going to do this with you to show you this process. What you do, you're going to pull out your little calculator here. You are going to take your lean body weight. All right. So let's say you're a female, you want to be 130 pounds. The example I gave earlier, you're somewhere, so your lean body mass might be around 100 pounds, maybe you have 30 pounds of fat. This is very hypothetical, just figuring this out. What you would do is you would take 100, because that's your lean body, you're going to divide that by 2.2. Why 2.2? Because everything is done in kilos in the nutrition world. It just is what it is. So we're dividing that by 2.2. So as a woman, if that is your goal, you end up with the number 45.45. That's the baseline. We're going to do guys at the same time. Guys, let's say that your goal weight is 185. Maybe your lean mass is around 160. So what you're going to do is you're going to do 160 divided by 2.2. That gives you 72.72. Okay? 72.72. So we have this base number. Now, on the low end, and when I say low end, this is probably the lowest I would go if you are somebody who is active, working out 4 to 5 days a week with strength training. If you're not quite that active, you can go just a little bit lower, but not a lot. So assuming you're somebody who you're active 4 to 5 days a week, this number 40 is going to be the low end. So for guys, that 72.72, we're going to multiply that by 40, and you're going to get 2,909. That is your low end of the calorie range. Again, this is for men who are active, not if you're sitting all day long, not if you're doing nothing. If you're on the lower end of that and you're like, I'm maybe active like 1 or 2 days a week, you could probably drop down closer to like 35 as your number. But all right, so we've got this number 72.72 times 40, 2908. And then for the women, we go back to that 45.45 times 40. And that puts us at 1818. So that is your low baseline caloric intake. If you stopped there and that's all you did, you're like, okay, let me put this in my Fitness Pal, my macros. So calories in versus calories out, 1800. Ladies, if you're sitting all day, you could go down to 45 times 35, that's 1575. I don't really like anybody going below 1600 because you start to mess around with your metabolism and things like that. So if that's all you did, you put that in there and you're like, okay, so lowest I'll go is these numbers. That's your base caloric intake for you, those of you who are active and not active. If you don't worry about the macros and you're eating that amount and burning more by being active, you're going to lose weight even if you don't change your food. Now, I'm going to assume you not only want to lose weight, but you also want to be toned and fit and maintain lean muscle mass. So next thing we're going to do is we're going to go back to this. So 72.72 for men, 45.45 for women. We're going to figure out your daily carbohydrate intake for active women. So what am I considering active? If you're working out for 45 to 60 minutes a day, 45 to 60 minutes a day, 4 to 5 times a week, that's active. Okay. All right. So your carb is based off of your total lean body mass. By the way, I'm looking at if you keep wondering what I'm looking at, it's all my notes here for this video. So for guys, 3 grams per kilogram of body weight, lean body weight is going to be the low end of your carb intake. So we go back to that number, 72.72 times 3 puts you at 218 grams of carbs a day. That's the low end. The high end, honestly, unless you are really you work out really hard 5 or 6 days a week, you're probably going to be fine on the low end. But just for the video, the high end is going to be 8. So 8, yeah, you don't need 8. Don't worry about it. You don't need 8. We're just going to skip that. Like I said, unless you're like a power lifter or something. So for women, your base low, interesting, is 3 to 3.5. Now, why is it the same as men? I've done so many videos on this. I even talked about why keto is bad for women. Women need more carbs in their diet than men do, which is why we have the same number as the low end being 3. Men can drop a little bit lower, but because of the way our hormone production is, we need a little bit more. So going back to the example I gave earlier of the woman, if your ideal weight was 130 pounds and like your lean mass is 100, we go to that multiplier of 45.45. We're going to multiply that by 3. And what we get is 136 grams of carbs a day. Okay. So now you have your carb intake down 136 grams of carbs. You're doing, women, you're doing around 1,800 calories a day. Men, you're doing around 2,900. The rest of it, and any nutritionist knows this, but the rest of this, you figure out your protein intake is anywhere from 0.8 grams to 1 gram per pound of lean mass. I know it gets confusing, but so it would be 100. Like, honestly, it's easy. If you were the woman with 130-pound weight and you're trying, but you have 100 pounds of lean mass, you just multiply it by 1. 100 grams, the lowest end you would go is 0.8. So 0.8 times 100 is 80. Same thing for men. If you're trying to be 185 pounds and your lean mass is 160, 1 gram would be 160 grams of protein. And then zero point 0.8, we'll do the math on that real quick, times 160 is 128 would be the very low end. Okay. That's kind of when you go in MyFitnessPal or whatever app you're using, you can structure your goals based off of this. It'll ask you your calorie intake, your carb intake, and your protein intake. The remaining portion or ratio that you have is going to be your fat intake. It's really that simple. And I know you're like, that's simple. That was a lot of math. Yes, it was a lot of math, but it really is that simple because what you're doing is you're eating based off of your actual nutritional needs. So a lot of times people go using these like macro apps, and like some of the macro apps, here's what I'm getting at. If you are a mesomorph, I am a mesomorph. A mesomorph is somebody who they excel in like power and explosive sports. You have a really good build of fast twitch muscle fibers. It's very easy for you to put on muscle. If that is you, you are a mesomorph. So with that, you are not going to need a high amount of protein because your body is already genetically made up to put on lean muscle mass. So like for myself, as an athlete, according to most macro calculators, I should be eating, because of how active I am, 1 to 1.2 grams of protein per pound. There is no way I'm consuming 150 grams of protein. I know my body and I know my build. I don't need that much protein. So for me, I stay between 0.8 grams and 1 gram per pound. And that's what works really well for my body type. Again, this is based off of your lean mass, not your total weight. So that's if you're a mesomorph. If you are, I always get these confused, an endomorph or an ectomorph. If you have a hard time putting on lean muscle and your metabolism is not forgiving, like you lose muscle fast and you have a hard time putting it on, you are going to want to eat a higher amount of protein and moderate carbohydrates. So I can't even think of somebody like an example of this, but basically, like you're the person who, when you eat carbs or any kind of sugar, it goes straight to your love handles and to your gut. Like you just kind of put weight on, it doesn't turn into muscle mass. You're going to want to eat very lean proteins with good quality fats and on the lower end of your carb numbers. If you are just the person who is skinny, whether that's male or female, like you just have a very fast you have a very fast metabolism and you're skinny and you eat whatever you want, your body just burns it up, but you're trying to build lean muscle, you are going to eat on the higher end of those protein numbers. So you're going to be more in like the 1 to 1.2 grams of protein, and you're going to eat on the higher end of those carbohydrates because our muscles are made up of protein or amino acids and carbohydrates and water. So if it's hard for you to put that on, up your carbohydrates, up your protein, and you will be able to put muscle and lean mass on a lot easier. This is why I am not a fan of diets. I'm not a fan of any kind of trend because it's so cookie cutter. But not only is it so cookie cutter, it's unnecessary because it's not that complicated. Calories in versus calories out. Eat whole foods. Eat organic foods. Eat quality nutrition. I don't have science to back this up, but I'm convinced you can probably eat as many vegetables as you want, as many lean protein sources as you want, as many organic whole foods, and you would like without counting it, you're just like, you know what? I'm gonna eat some apples and some broccoli and some asparagus and some fish and some salmon and this and this and that. You could probably eat all that and you wouldn't gain weight. Why? Because it's food that your body can actually use. It's like, awesome. Thank you for giving me protein, omega-3 fatty acids, vitamins, minerals, nutrition. Thank you. Like, we can use this for all kinds of things. Problem happens is when you're consuming food that your body can't use, it has nothing to do but to store it as fat. It's like, hey, thanks a lot for the trans fat and the grease. Like, what did you want me to do with this? I can't really use it for your heart or your lungs. So I guess we'll just store this as fat in case like we go into survival. Like that's what you have to think about is you have to start seeing food. I'm not even going to be cliche and be like, food is fuel, but it is. But you have to start seeing the things that you consume as things like, can my body use this or is this totally a waste? And I'm not saying like, don't go, if you want the pizza, eat the pizza. If you want the ice cream, eat the ice cream. Like, if you want that, go eat it. I'm not saying to be perfect, but just start to think about late at night when you're ready to binge eat carbohydrates. It's like, does your body actually need all this? What is it going to do with all these carbs when you go to sleep? You don't really need that. Maybe you need some fat and some protein and like a little bit of carbs. But like it's just a whole mindset shift. So, how do you lose weight without dieting? That's it. That's the secret. You don't need to go pay a nutritionist now because they're going to be like, okay, let's figure out your daily caloric intake, your lean muscle mass, your daily need for protein, carbs, and fats. You have everything that you need now. Just work on becoming aware and tracking your habits every single day. And more than likely, most people eat close to the same thing every single day. So when I first tell people this, they're like, oh my God, that's so much work. It's really not. You're probably eating the same breakfast, lunch, and dinner and snacks every day. So just do it once and then you can save and copy and paste and all that. But become aware of what your habits are first. Then, after you've done it for about a week, and I gave you these examples, if you find out you've been eating 3,000 calories and your baseline is 1,800, just start cutting things you're eating in half. Don't even change all of it yet. And then over time, now that you're like, okay, I didn't really change anything, I am eating my caloric intake. Now, let me see how I do just shifting little things, like I mentioned. All right. I hope this was super helpful. If it was, leave me a comment and let me know. If you want me to do another video explaining more of something, let me know that as well. Make sure though you like and subscribe as I'm always coming out with new videos to help give you guys the best education around nutrition, fitness, and mindset so that you can empower yourself. Otherwise, I will see you in the next video. Bye guys.